Council, thank you very much for your attendance. Special meeting. We're discussing the budget this morning. Budgets are important. They provide council and administration a map that will guide us through our journey in 2025. Before we begin the meeting, we'll give a brief land acknowledgement. We begin this gathering by acknowledging that the land upon which we meet is the traditional territory of First Nations people. We convey our respect and thank them for their contributions to our culture, community, our past and future partnerships. The meeting is called to order at 10 o'clock. Council, is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, the chair will move on. Confirmation of the agenda, it's been circulated. Recently, some options presented to us. Recommendation that the special budget agenda meeting of council dated March 25th, 2025 be accepted as presented. Is there a mover and second? Ed and Martin, thank you very much. Councillor Myers, Councillor Vink, all in favor? Carried. Budget presentation. We will cast your eyes towards Mac on this one. And Mac, thank you very much for the work you've done over the last period of time. We appreciate it, and there's lots of information for council to digest. And if you can make sense of it all to council, we'll appreciate it, okay?
Great, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, let's dive right on into the presentation here. Chairs have moved away from me here. There we are. Okay, here we are, we're set. So thank you everyone for attending this year's first budget meeting. This is the first of two meetings that have already been scheduled. Please note that the second meeting, not as listed on the website, but is the revised date is Thursday, not the Wednesday, Thursday, March 20th at 9:30. Okay, so everyone knows that. We'll jump right into the budget meeting notes here. The first thing is the agenda, very simple, high level. We're going to walk through the presentation. We'll dive into the operating budget reviews on the different lines of business. We'll stop to talk about council grants while we're in the general governance area. Then we'll continue on with capital budget review. There has been supplemental documents that were provided yesterday, so hopefully everybody has a copy of those now. Those are the different scenarios that we're looking at as options for all of our capital projects. Okay, but before we jump into this year's information, let's look at last year's preliminary results. So last year we were budgeting 7.04, I'll say. We came in at 7.12. That's just slightly above. That's just the typical changes in taxation assessments that are done by impact. So anything from you built half a house more on, or you demolished a home, all those pluses and minuses come into effect. And last year we ended up a little ahead than what we expected. Okay. And as I understand, everybody likes to see things by the board, so this is a reminder of what the boards are, and this is how it broke down that 7.12 million taxes. Okay, I'll let you review that another time. This slide here, just a comparison to our peers, so everybody else in Middlesex County, along with some of our neighbors in other counties. We're sitting on a bit of the high ranking for the local rates in Twine, but when we look at the values of the homes on those rates, you can see that we're still at a very competitive, less than $3,000 per average home. Now, please do note that the average home value and average household income values that are here are from 2023. Those values are no longer publicly available. You have to go to each individual municipality and request that information now. It's not sourced centrally anywhere. That was a change that I came across this year. So let's start talking about 2025. The build-up is the same as most years. We start off with the base of services that we're providing. We look at what costs have increased, whether it be the value of the employees' salaries, is it the equipment that's gone up, is it the actual, the brine and gravel, those prices have gone up, so that starts the base. And then we look at things like legislative requirements or services that, like OBP, we're handed, what that value is going to be next year. We look at those. We look at annualization, so in the event that we have an employee that started mid-year, next year, obviously that's going to bring the full value up. We add those in. We look at it in growth, so is there a new neighborhood that now needs this snow plowing done? Is there a new park that needs more work to be done there by Kevin's team? So that sort of thing. And then we start looking at enhancements. Is there anything that we can do more and add in? And so there's examples of that as well in our information. So as far as enhancements, when we look at what we've done this year, we've enhanced our HR area by adding in a drainage superintendent on 100%. We're no longer shelling out that service to another municipality. We're also we're going to have an extra summertime horticultural specialist this year, so we've added that into the budget. Okay. We've got infrastructure improvement projects. We've got the force main that we continue to work on along with the Victoria pump station, for example. So those are going to increase the value of our services. And then we're looking at service disruption avoidance purchases. So things like the tandem truck. We can't have a plow truck not be available. So we're looking at, let's make the purchase now before the engineers tell us or the mechanics tell us that you can't drive this truck anymore. Okay? So those are the types of things that we've looked at. Some things that I want to point out, just as a high level, I'm sorry, first I want to go back to our budget survey that we did last year. So the budget survey was done approximately August, September of last year. We had 84 respondents, and that's in a population that's nearing 6,000. Statistically, that's not enough to be able to say definitely these results are 100% accurate. We'd like to see that respondent level probably up around 150 or more, just statistically speaking, because what happens is that you have a 50% answer. Some people are left, some people are right. Well, that answer is actually not 100% correct. It could have been 60% were left, 40% were right, or switching around. So it doesn't provide statistical significance. So again, hopefully we'll have more respondents next year, and if we get all counselors out there talking to the public and saying, hey, this will be coming back next August for the 2026 budget review, that'd be great. But in the event, in the results that we do have, what we see is that 75% or better are looking at 77% or more believe that the services are fair or better. At the same time, they believe that services, 75 to 90% are important, but at the same time, their satisfaction with those services, they're only in that 55 to 75%. And that's typical. That's everybody's expecting more and not seeing that their perfect service is being provided, so they don't give that high level score. And then the last thing that I wanted to look at was budget preference. They're looking at 60% are saying increasing taxes, whereas 40% are saying let's just reduce our services so that I don't have to pay more. Now, next slide here shows that a little bit better, just to say that there's 4 types of people out there. There's people that I want to spend more money and I want better services. And then there's people that I get it, services are going to cost more this year, so yes, we'll pay for it, but I don't want more. And then there's others that are like, you got too many services, I don't want to pay more. And then others are, I don't want your services, I don't want to pay more. And hopefully those are the people that don't use our roads, because without that, the taxes, we're not going to have good roads. All right, so starting point for 2025 budget. What we're looking at here is who's using the most, and the usual thing is right here is the public works is up. I mean, roads are the biggest price that we have to pay for. Obviously, public works is going to take a big chunk out of where our tax dollars are going. And then, as you can see through, the typical items stand out as well. So fire protection, police services are up there. The administration is in a negative position, and the reason why is that administration, there's reserve money that would help our capital this year. So the reserve money is not netting to the capital cost. That's why we have a negative value sitting there. Waste management, obviously a big item. Capital, currently that capital number is 1.5 million. We're going to work through that later on in the session so that we can bring that down. Council costs at 184,000. That's up from last year, roughly 35%, somewhere in there. And then our building and planning, the reason that is a negative value is that we make quite a bit of money on our planning services. So that money there, though, it doesn't get to go back into our general reserves. That actually is segregated so that if there is a planning year that we need more, we have that reserved already. Okay, largest drivers of the 2025 property taxes. Again, I mentioned it earlier, our roads. We are putting a great deal of money into gravel and brine to keep those roads up to standards. Second item, again, this capital, this will move away, way down the list. Community services and facilities, obviously to run all the services, take care of the parks, take care of the arena, that's where those services are. Fire and police, already mentioned, management. That subtotal of what we're looking at right now as our total budget would be 80% of the costs. All right, some items of interest. We always look at CPI as an indicator of what's seen in the public as a reasonable amount of increase. One of the things about CPI, though, is that it's the way that's heavily weighted towards home prices and rentals. It swings just as much by that. So if we have a year where interest rates are up, rentals rates go up, then we're going to see CPI jump through the roof. Where currently we're at, we're seeing interest rates are coming down. We see that rental rates are reducing, mainly because immigration is reducing. So in the bigger areas, you're seeing the rent numbers come down, therefore CPI is coming down. But that doesn't translate to what all of our costs are. So using CPI as an indicator, I think this year wouldn't be advisable. It's just not the same rate as what our costs are. Impact. So like I said earlier, we made more money last year, and that's because of the change in assessments. So for this year, we are up on that. The Ontario Municipal Partners Fund, their revision and the calculation there. So we're up nearly 150,000 in revenue for that. So that's an excellent item. OPP. So there was a large OPP increase of about 14% for Southwest. That was later rescinded by a 10% reduction. So net, we were only about 3.5%. What that means though is that for 2026, when it comes around, we'll see OPP costs up quite a bit. And then some of the items that I want to point out here is our asset management plan. So with this, we are going to probably, we will definitely be improving our view on how our levels of service are calculated. And so we can manage the view of one product versus another product, service to service. How are we as far as levels of service? Is it that the community wants a level of service that's up here and we're providing down here? Or are we opposite and therefore we can look at reducing that service and using operational funds elsewhere? So I'm really energized about asset management plan. It's going to be a game changer for us. Development cost study and storm rate study. So those are two things that are coming this year. We're going to look at different ways that we can make additional revenue in those two aspects. Okay. Let's do a year-over-year comparison of the budget. As you can see here, 25 to 24. Our taxation money is significantly up. The main item there again is the fact that we currently have capital that's in there, that's not going to be in there, so that taxation rate will come down. Okay. With general government, we're showing that negative amount again. This is due to the fact that we've included a large amount for reserve, and also we had that Ontario Municipal Partner Fund revenue go up, so that's why we're in a negative stance there. And same with the planning. Planning is at a negative amount because we are making that additional dollars through the permits. Our expenses are up. Public Works at a modest 1.06, and then Fire and Protection 103. Community Services and Facilities up at 10%. Council is 6%. The main reason for council at 6% is that there wasn't as many meetings and whatnot last year as compared to what is planned for this year and what was done in prior years. So it seemed that 2024 was a year where not everybody went to AMO conference, the ROMA conference, or any of them. So there was a down swing there. And then our reserves, reserve fund, we're heavily asking for use of reserves so far in this budget. And then, of course, as I've said before, the capital is significantly higher than where we're going to end up having to land. Getting into the individual groups. So as I said earlier, with general government, the highlights here are that the revenue, we've dug deeper into our tax rate stabilization reserve. So instead of the usual 200,000, we're actually looking at using 500,000. with the Ontario Youth Partner Fund. The recalculation for 2025 gave us an additional 147,400. On the expenses side, salaries are up roughly 7%. This is due to the 3% COLA, full year salaries for certain individuals, and the step grade increases that many of the employees had. One highlight with postage being up 6,500 is simply that we are looking at making sure that we get those newsletters out on a quarterly basis this year. So the postage has gone up from that. Insurance, we've been advised insurance is up 9%. As most people understand, insurance isn't just your insurance, it's everybody's insurance. And how that works is that if all these vehicles are being stolen, insurance rates go up. If there's more flooding happening, insurance rates go up. So as a group, all insurances are going up, and we're seeing 9% for 2025. Council grants, these are up significantly. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. Small equipment was up. This is just equipment. Certain equipment has to get swapped out. Things are not working as they should. Get the new product in, and all of a sudden your grass is being cut twice as fast because the motor isn't dying every time. And then legal fees. We put in an increase of 40% in legal fees, considering the number of meetings that will be occurring this year. All right, so this is where we take a pause and we look at council grants. So my understanding of the process is that we have a November 29th or so deadline for everybody to get in your requests to the council to support services in the community. This year we received 8 different requests, and we've listed them here. And I think at this time we can look at these, but if there's any questions, has everyone has looked at the list, and there's
yeah, Chair, we'll take questions. We won't certainly want to give Mac time to get through the presentation. Go ahead, if they can be brief, and we'll allow 1 to 2 questions for each council. Yeah, go ahead, Councilor Bigger.
Thank you, Mayor. Just from past history, our cemetery grants, they didn't necessarily have to apply. I believe we had a rule that all cemeteries received a grant. And so I noticed that some are not shown on here. I'm just saying, I'm not saying that this policy has to be followed, but I'm saying that's been the policy in the past.
If I can speak to that, I think it was by request. I think that grant was apportioned to their insurance cost. And many of the, most of the cemeteries in Southwest Middlesex certainly put that request in. Some cemeteries have no management structure behind them. They're the responsibility of the municipality. But I think that program was based on insurance costs for the major cemeteries. And yeah, we encourage them to apply. If I'm wrong in that, certainly correct me, admin. But I don't think they've been forgotten here.
Okay. Thank you for the question. Through you, Mr. Mayor. If I can just state that one request was made. Don May and Cheryl Hand did make their request, but at the same time, none of the prior ones were omitted. So Appin, Murray, and Oakland cemeteries, these are in those numbers. If there's another cemetery out there that we've missed, please let me know. I fully understand I can have that back here.
Yeah, yes, I'll go Councilor McGill and followed by Councilor May.
I'd just like to ask about number 1 there, the Melbourne Ag Society. I think in the past, we were given the same to the Melbourne Ag Society as Strathroy Caradoc was. So we were given 5,000, Strathroy Caradoc was given 5,000. Now, I understand, and I asked this question, but I don't know whether the answer got back to all of council. Is Strathroy Caradoc given 10,000 to the Melbourne Egg Society?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I had conversations with the treasurer from Strathroy Caradoc, and he stated that 10,000 had been given last year, and 10,000 is planned for this year.
Okay, Mark, you want to follow up?
Yeah, so really, Melbourne doesn't have a community center or anything like that. So the Egg Society there does have a hall, which they rent out for various things. So given Melbourne Egg Society money is similar to the way we give money towards the Glencoe Fair Board, or even towards, to help subsidize the use of the Masons Hall there in Wardsville. So I think we should, honor that request of 7,000.
Okay. Thank you for your comment. Councilor Vick, please go ahead. Thanks for your patience.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I just want to mention North American Martyrs Cemetery in Wardsville, always got a grant, and they're not on the list.
Okay, we'll make sure that goes on. Thank you, Councilor Vick. And yes, Deputy Mayor Schultes.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. Just wondering if Strathroy Caradoc is doing any matching. There's some other costs for the Melbourne fairgrounds for stands and picnic tables. Do we know if Strathroy is kicking in any on that as well?
I never spoke, sorry, excuse me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. To respond to that, we didn't get into any other requests. It was purely just the Ag Society. So the different organizational groups, there was no information on that. No. It could be that 10,000 that the treasurer spoke of earlier is for different groups. I'm not certain on that.
I wondered if we could contact Strathroy Caradoc to see if they are putting any money in that.
We can ask in a minute. I don't think a notice of motion is required. Is that all right with you? Okay. So inquire about stands and funding. Yeah. Quick follow on the line.
Not really a follow-up, but the Glencoe Ag Society is asking for, I believe, $7,500 for playground equipment. I just wonder if we could get some details on what that playground equipment is.
Okay, is any information available, or can that be brought back to council?
Thank you for the question, through you, Mr. Mayor. The application did not go into the specifics of what that playground equipment would be.
Okay. So we can find out. Thank you. Another question? Don? Yeah.
Yes, I was talking to council over there, and they said they did not give any money to Melbourne sports and recreation, more of a tractor pull.
That's Strathroy Caradoc.
Strathroy.
Yeah. Okay. Just the 10,000.
Yeah, for 10,000.
Well, you know, sometimes those grants are given to them. We don't want to tell them how to spend their money. We like to know, but the options available to them to use that money as they see fit. And Melbourne certainly, Agricultural Society spend it in a responsible manner. Councillor Haggett?
Thanks, Mayor. What's the Canadian Horse Association? Not to be disrespectful, I just don't know.
Would it have something to do with the racetrack over there? Yes, Councillor McGill may be able to shed light on that. Go ahead.
That event would be in Melbourne as well. That's somebody from the Melbourne area that has put that fund request in.
It's a Southwest Middlesex resident.
Yes.
Okay. That to see the amount is fairly modest, $465. That may be for a specific part of their operations, such as insurance. Yes, we'll take one more question, Councilor Mick, and I'm on back to be able to get through this. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just trying to figure out the correlation between the Blanco Agricultural Society wants $7,500 for playground equipment, but we also have the Bob Martin playground there. So how, are we talking about the same thing, or are we talking two different things? And the reason I bring that up, so do we want two playgrounds so close together?
Well, I think that investment is for the Walmart Park. From my understanding, we're certainly not have any appetite for opening up an additional park. Amanda, you want to clarify that, Council? It's for Walmart, I believe. And Councilor McGill, I saw you raise your hand. You have some information on that. You're okay. We'll find out. We'll find out. But I think it is an upgrade to existing play structures. Go ahead, Amanda.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, I might suggest, given the volume of questions, that perhaps at the next budget meeting, we can come back with an updated spreadsheet on some more information with what Strathroy is providing in the Melbourne area, as well as what each grant is for, and we can do any correspondence with the grant requesters to get clarification to answer these questions from council, if that's helpful. And I also may note that we'll review our existing council grant policy and any maximums and minimums that are included in that policy to make sure council's aware of whether these requests kind of match that policy or not. So you can expect some more information.
And just to council too, there is some leadership from the chair, and you must remember that Stratford Carry will have a much bigger tax base and stuff as Middlesex. So that I would suggest that should have a bearing on the amount of money we're going to matching may not be our objective here because of our smaller tax base. We'll have to apportion it probably. Councilor Myers, thanks. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is just for information, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not going to adopt the budget today. I doubt very much. We'll see.
Yeah, and, excuse me, Mr. Mayor, if I may. The two highlighted cells here in the in-kind request, those were grayed out simply because they did not match the policy. We have a policy that says only up to 5,000. So when they've asked for more than that, I highlighted it just to say, they're asking for a lot of work from our staff.
Yeah.
That's beyond the policy.
Yeah, thanks. Go ahead, Mac. You proceed with the presentation.
Thank you, sir. Moving on. The next area is the fire and protection budget. So what we've seen is that our outbound fire services are up 18,000. So we're expecting to be making a little bit more from our services to other areas. Our building permits, with the building bylaw enforcement, those building permits are up 32,000. That's on par with what we saw last year. So that's excellent in that round. But again, with those building permits, they don't go back to our tax rate stabilization reserve. They go to a separate reserve held specifically for buildings. Expenses, fire salaries are up. This is again partly because of COLA, partly because of changing positions, that sort of thing. The fire SCBA and safety clothing, those are up. Those costs are increasing, and therefore that's a reasonable amount, but that's up. Fire training is up significantly. It's more than double, only because it was halved last year. So it's coming back to where it should be, and the expectation is that there's always training required from fire members. Fire debenture, so they took on a new item from prior year, so anytime that you debenture, the next year, obviously your operating costs go up by that. Police services, we talked about this earlier, they're up 3.3%. And then one thing that I wanted to make mention of here is the emergency event management. When we all went to North Middlesex, we all talked about the fact that we should be putting something away for the undesirable events. If it ever were to happen, so this is money that we put aside. We've already looked at certain things like signage, costs for those, that sort of thing, so we put the 6,000 in for that. Community services and facilities, we're showing the big items here, so vehicle costs are up, arena costs are up. We've got a couple of things that we've been able to save on. Crossing guards are down. I mean, for the most part, it's reasonable that it's going up, let's just say that. On the next page, we've got the highlights. Reserve usage, we haven't dug into any of our reserves yet for this area, so very much so we could tap into something there. The Canada Summer Jobs Grant, we're expecting roughly 54,000 there for the, I think it's 13 summer students. So that there. Importantly, the rentals at the arena. We're seeing a significant rise there, and that 68,000 is on par with what we saw in 2024. On the expense side, again, salary and benefits, those are up. We've got the additional summer student coming in for the horticultural services, so that's a big item that I think that the constituents were looking for. Group benefits are up 17,000. Pensions are up. Pension funding is up 12,000. The ice resurfacing machine maintenance, so that's 6,000. And then we've had debentures from last year that started this year. Those loan repayments are there. And then building repairs, maintenance, cleaning, those are all up as a group, 8,000. Moving to the public works budget. Quick look there. You'll definitely see the drainage whopping 429% up. That's simply because the revenues that we used to make off of moving our superintendent over to Ali Metcalf 2 days a week. That has risen the budget quite a bit. So at a budget that was at 25,000, now it's over 100,000. That's why you're seeing such a highlights, reduced reimbursement for shared employee, which we just mentioned. So our revenue is down on that account. Our water administration costs, these have been estimated to increase by 31,000. The water budget will be part of our meeting 2. Okay. On the expense side, again, salaries are up, 78,000. Roads, so this is, again, your gravel, your brine, and a few other items in there. That's 105,000 up. Engineering consulting costs, we have more projects going on, therefore the 10,000 increase there. Insurance and licenses, as I said earlier, insurance is up to 9%, so those are going up. Tree maintenance, railway crossings, that work, that is up by 11,000. Again, more debentures went on last year, so now we're seeing those operational loans coming through. We're looking to we're looking to make sure that the lighting at the different operational areas have LED lighting, get those installed to provide better lighting for the staff, and maintenance becomes almost nothing. Waste management, we're expecting that to rise by 30,000, and the Trillium Transfer Station, that is up 14,000. There needs to be an additional bin on site because too many times last year the bins were almost overflowing, and that's an environmental no-no, so to speak. So we need that extra bin to be there available. And then, of course, fuel is up 10,000. For the amount of snow plowing that we've done this year, you can understand why that's up. Okay, so that is the operational side. Moving into the capital. This slide is from our educational series that we did a while back. And what I wanted to show you that at that time we had projects 1 through 5. We gave updates on that. We have since then added in a few other items here. Pool house splash pad, we talked about that. That has now been added as a confirmed committed capital item. We also have some items that have come back this year that have partially got reserves, but at the same time, the costs for these have increased since the initial commitment was made. So for the paving of the fire hall and the McMaster Place street light installation, as I said, we have partial reserves for that, but the costs have gone up. We also learned through a health and safety review that the salt sand shed repairs over on Mappin Road there, that needed to be done. And we've added in here our stormwater rate study. So then, going to our full list of capital items that have been included in the initial budget, we have a total of 1.5 million here. These are all the items that I've listed that we've included, simply because these are the items we believe are most needed to be done. However, understanding that at a charge of 1.5 million, that's just not going to be possible, and therefore we're here to review and discuss today these items. Okay. There have been cuts already made to those items though, and I wanted to make sure that we have those as well, and that'll be a little later on. That 1.5, that translates into a 23% increase in taxes. That was not going to happen, but it's here for illustration purposes. The items that were removed. Okay, so updating, branding, wayfinding, costs of signage, whatnot, 25 grand, we took that out. The municipal office workspace, we wanted to do some updates, better alignment and whatnot. We've taken those out. Council chambers were sufficient, but there's improvements that could be made. We've held off on those. We've put aside the reserve for the Wardsville pumper replacement, given that we're using reserves and so intensely, it doesn't make sense to just throw money back into the reserve that we do not take out another reserve. Updating the vehicle structure stabilization kit. So this is an improvement to something that's already there. We've held off on that one. We have with the fire chief, he's currently using his own vehicle. We took out the project to replace that with the municipally owned vehicle. We put that on the back burner. Public Works, they're looking for a new patrol truck. They have a 2015 truck right now. It usually makes sense that every 8 to 10 years you would swap out trucks. However, we put that off just because, again, we're looking at ways to save. Our capital roads improvement, this is from the roads needs study. This is, I believe, something that we've cut because it's so much, but it's something that's so important as well. We really need to find a way to fund this in the future. If not, if council believes we should bring this back into the fold, it's up to you as well. Moving to the community services area, and rubber for the pickleball and basketball at Simpson Street Park. We took those out simply because, again, this is an improvement to what's already there. Holiday decorations, we were going very extravagant, and I shouldn't say extravagant, the price of holiday decorations is up. Just the innovations that are out there, the pricing is quite high now. Top dressing the soil, grass, and Simpson Park parking lot, all of that, we've said, these are improvements, but what is there works. And that saved us 1.2 million by not adding those items. Okay, so I just wanted to go back over what we saw in 2024. This just shows us again where we were at there, and then looking at tax increase comparisons that we've seen already from our peers. They're all within that 4%, other than Thames Center. I don't have a confirmation on the 3.5. It's just what was presented. I haven't heard back from their treasurer on whether or not that was confirmed.
Council, any questions at all? Mac, thank you very much. You're doing well there. You're at 32 of 71 pages.
Okay, sorry, getting ahead of myself here. So next step typically would be to start looking at our budget meeting 2 items. But before we get there, I think that we need to look at our scenarios. Those were the supplemental items, and I'm hoping that these are right at the back of this deck that was online. So here we are, scenario 1.
I have one quick question.
Yes, go ahead.
Just for clarification, the tax rate increase comparisons that we're seeing there, is that 2024, or is that what these have already been approved?
I think they've been approved.
They've been approved once for 2025.
I was talking to the mayor, so those numbers are familiar.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, okay, Mac, yeah, well, I'll take a couple of questions here. You take a breather. Councilor May, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. My capital budget items, there's reserves, 400,000. That's taken out of reserves, according to this.
Yes, there's 400,000 in reserves that have been
So,
taken out. Of those reserves, the Limerick landfill is the major one, and that is where last year council advised to merge both landfills into one reserve, and we're using that reserve for the closing costs of the Limerick landfill.
so the 400,000 then is already in the reserves, we're not really taking out of existing reserves. So in other words, I guess the best way to question is our reserve going to be lower by 400,000 at the end of this budget?
That is, through you, Mr. Mayor, that is exactly how that works. So we're currently sitting at roughly 950,000 in reserve for the both the Limerick and Trillium landfills. At the end of this year, once we pay the closing costs for that Trillium reserve, Limerick reserve, that 350,000 will reduce the 950 down to 600-ish, and that's what we'll end up with for 2026.
Just a follow-up to that, Mac, on the revenue side of the landfill issue that you just mentioned, has any consideration been given to the closing costs that we will receive from Chatham Kent or Newberry? You've taken those into consideration?
Yes, that is correct. So what we're seeing here, that 353,000 is only Southwest Middlesex portion.
Thanks. Yes, Deputy
I
Mayor.
have a quick question on the capital budget items. It's on the top, asset management. Oh, sorry about that, thank you. Under capital budget items for asset management compliance, it says 40,000. I thought it was 50, or I'm mistaken.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes. Thanks for the question. Initially, we put in 50,000. When the tenders all came in, there was a couple that were under, so we reduced that to 40,000. The current tender, I believe, was like 36.5, something there. So if there's any little overages, we kept that 3,000.
Thank you.
And if I may follow up on that, that is fully funded by OSIP funding.
I see that. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Continue with that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So continue on, we have the 4 different scenarios. The first scenario is simply what was already presented in the main budget. So in your binders that you all have, this is the amount that was put in there. What the result is here is that when you look at the operational costs this year of 7.133, you add in the capital of 1.546, and you end up with what essentially is a 22% increase to the taxes. Again, this is not what we're looking for, but this is where the current numbers sit. Okay, now that's because we took out that 1.2 million. Going to scenario 2, this is all projects that we have considered, and again, a ridiculous increase to the tax base of 39,000. This is just, again, purely for illustration purposes that if we were to do everything that we think that we need to get done, that's a 40% hit, and we're not doing that. Sorry to speak for council. What's a little bit more lean is if we only do what's already been committed. So only approved and legislated items have been included in scenario 3. So what you can see here is that what we talked about earlier, all those committed items, along with some other items that are already on their way because of the need. So if we look at the generator installation, this wasn't identified earlier, but there was a need. We have a grant for that of $48,920. So that's a small item. That is definitely a need. Another need that we have is the arena compressor and valve maintenance. The maintenance alone was going to be needed, but the significant issues that we have with the compressors and those valves, that has to be done. Otherwise, we don't have ice. And so that has been put in there. And what's good about that is the gas tax funding covers that. And then the last item that's there that we didn't previously commit to was the Elm Daycare parking lot entrance. Again, this is a must. It's in our numbers. We've already, if I'm correct, we've already started the repairs. So again, if we start then with the operational base at 7.1, we add in the very small 271,000. We end up with would not only be a 4.35 increase to the taxes.
Okay, now, question on the horse here, Councilor.
This is for Morrow. I just wondered if we could get just a brief explanation on the daycare entrance installation, what needs to be done there.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we're working in consultation with Kevin. We've been getting some concerns about only having one access into the site. So what we're planning to do, it's my understanding through the design of the site that they were planning for future access onto Charlotte. So basically, we're going to be extending that access to Charlotte, which would include base stabilization, curb work, concrete work, and asphalt.
And that can all be covered under that price.
We did secure some estimates, and yes, that was the best price that we got.
Thank you. Yep, that is certainly, I think, a priority to proceed. Okay, Councilor Ray.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Capital project removed from consideration, I noticed Watersville outdoor replacement, 2027, you're not gonna have 50,000. So, that's something that has to be replaced, is that not correct?
Through Mr. Mayor, yes. That is
So then
something-
what you're doing is just adding the cost for 2027.
Thank you again, sir. Through you, Mr. Mayor. My understanding here is that if we cut the 50,000 now, we're essentially not using reserve to pay for reserve. Or we're deferring an increase to the tax base until a later time. It's however you wish to look at it. The only other way to get around this is funding.
But you are deferred as far as I'm concerned.
I believe that's correct, yeah.
Yes.
Yep, go ahead,
Is there
sir.
any potential for funding for that? Do we have any leads on any funding for that?
Not at the present time. Sandra, you okay? No, I think I forgot my microphone too. But, yeah, the question, we've resolved the issue with the second egress from the daycare center, and we are now talking about deferring the pumper replacement for Warzone. Okay, and yes, Councilor McGill.
Yeah, the third item on that page is, decommissioning geothermal, 25,000. Now, we already contracted out that work at the fire hall, and was that decommissioning geothermal, was that not included in the price we got? It's just that, so why does this 25,000 show up here, was it not?
Amanda may take this
Through
one.
you, Mayor, so at the time that the project was tendered, there was an additional $25,000 required to support the total project, including the decommissioning of the existing system. And so at the time when the tender was awarded, the $25,000 was pre-approved for the 2025 budget so that the project could start in 2024. So it's just been carried over that additional portion from the 2024 budget. But it is for the existing project.
Yes, Councilor McGill.
Yeah, and another budget item I wanted to ask about was, I know we spent a lot of money at the arena, but the heaters, it's been 2 seasons now since it's been in use, since the, all the work was done there. But the heaters over the bleachers are still not working, and I think the cost to get them going again is around 6,000. I think I saw that, I don't know whether it's in the screen binder or in a previous meeting or something. So there's money, is there money committed to do that already?
Kevin will address that.
Not as of right now, it's been added into the operating budget waiting for approval from the horseshoe, but I have received quotes, so then that is the cost of these, roughly $6,000 to have those wired back in.
So would we have to add that 6,000 in on top of what's shown here if we want that work to be done?
No, that $6,000 has already been added into the operational budget that you would have reviewed. And then it's just once the approval from the horseshoe is done for the operational budget, then I can move on to that project.
Okay, thanks, Kevin, for clarifying that. Okay, I don't see any hands, Mac. Proceed.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and we'll proceed to the fourth and final scenario, which is very much the same as scenario 3. However, we're adding back in 4 items. The replacement of the tandem truck. I believe that we should be looking to do a debenture on that one so that we again ensure that we have a plow not going down and not having something to replace it. And then we were looking for a new mower attachment for tractors for roadside grass cutting. Currently, what's working is a lot of, I'll say it as Mickey Mouse repairs. And what's going to end up happening is that the device will eventually just fail. And so it'd be best if we get that new, and again, debenture that going forward. And then another debenture is a new ice resurfacing machine, whether it be Olympia or Zamboni, whichever it is. We need to get that in. I think that the cost of the venturing over the next few years would offset what would be repair bills. We've already had significant repairs on that, which I believe was in the 8,000 range. So it is best to get new. And then the last item that is there is lights for the ball diamond. Replacement of those older lights is required for better lighting and also to avoid any of the current renters from not being able to play, because umpires may get to the field and say that there's not enough lights, cancel the game, enough cancellations, and then we've got a league that's not running, so there's lost revenue there. The good thing about those lights is that it is, again, covered by the gas tax funding.
Okay.
Okay, adding in those.
One question, Mac, before I proceed, Councilor Vink, go ahead.
I just wanted to make this clear for ratepayers and myself. When you talk about the ventures and say for the new truck, $56,000, it would be on this year's tax rate. But when you're also saying that you're raising next year's budget, the year after the budget, by that amount of money. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
And yes, Deputy Mayor Schultes.
I'm just wondering on the arena air compressor, covered in rain, and the lights for the ball diamond. If they're covered under the gas tax funding, I'm just wondering why they're not included in the previous scenario, if it's not going to affect our tax rate.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. What was in the previous scenario is anything that was pre-approved. So scenario 3 is what has already been decided upon.
Gotcha, okay.
All right, go ahead, Mac.
Okay, so thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the last item that I was going to state here is that this increases our tax-based dollars under this scenario by roughly $80,000. This brings us to a $350,000 amount of capital budget, and then of course the resulting increase in the tax base would be a 5.47 increase.
Mac, if I could, I like scenario 4 because it maintains their level of service, and we actually creep up a bit on benefits and infrastructure, things like that with their budget and pre-approved. I'm just looking at it hypothetically, if we took the paving of the fire hall at $63,000, if we indicated that we'll put $32,000 away for 2025, another $32,000 in 2026. It would amortize it over 2 years. It would lower the tax rate, and yet the project would still get done, although not as fast. So that is an option that council could use as well. If you look at a higher ticket item, you could defer the project to 2026, but put half of the funds in reserve 2025. I know that practice has been done in the past at this horseshoe, and it could continue. Although it defers the completion of the project, we must remember that. Any questions, Council? Yes, Deputy Mayor Schultes.
Thank you, Mayor. Here, I'm wondering, how much is the value of the 1% increase on this budget?
Just less than 100,000, but Mac can clarify that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You hit the nail on the head exactly. Last year we were looking at 100,008, I think. So again, 1% on roughly the same base amount. We went from 7.034 or something to 7.1. It's going to be roughly the same amount. It's going to be a 110 sort of thing.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Councilman Gill.
Yeah, through the mayor to Mac. What happens to all those council grants under these various scenarios?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Those council grants, currently, it's in the operating budget. So these scenarios are only affecting the capital.
So you mean to say if we take some of those council grants out, we could still do all these capital improvements and still end up with a lower tax increase?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, that is correct. Anything that we remove out of the operating budget will also affect that rate percentage. So if we end up, what's currently at about 88,000, if we reduce that, say, 20,000, that's the same as reducing 20,000 on the capital.
Okay, any questions? Yes, Councilor Hagan, go ahead, please.
Well, I understand all that, but I'm still thinking, I'm looking at Simpson Park, and it's been like a council before, this council, and we're still not gonna finish it. To me, things need to be finished. I just wondered if you could come back with something, what it's gonna cost.
Yeah, to what extent, well, you're talking turf management, or are you talking playground equipment?
No, I think if we had if I could ask the recreation man, and there we had a plan for gravel and finishing it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been like 5 years. So if you want, I'm just more calls than questions, and oh, so well, we got done it again, we're not finishing it.
Yeah.
So that's my question, and what's it gonna cost? Because I think it needs to be, in my personal opinion, things need to be done.
I don't disagree with that.
Keep
there.
band-aiding. Thanks.
It does need attention, there's no question. Yes. Thank you, Councilor Haggett, for that question in regard to Simpson Park. That's can be horseshoe discussions. We put that back in and take something back out, and administration will certainly guide us by the hand on that. So that feeling on Simpson Park, I think, maybe sure those are constituted. So we'll take a look at that. And I just politely ask administration that if you could pull that rabbit out of the hat, Mac, we'd like that very much. Okay, so maybe an option could come forward. If we can assess some of those funds through spreading a major capital purchase over 2 or 3 years, that money may be found. Okay, we're looking under the pots right now to see if we can find the money and still have a competitive tax rate. And Councilor McGill, thanks for your patience. Go ahead.
Through the mayor, just wanted tomorrow to comment on that sidewalk program, $150,000. Is this all just to replace existing sidewalks that are in bad shape?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so we are required to meet the AODA standard, and that is upgrading our sidewalks that are substandard, which are below 1.5 meters in width, to the 1.5 meter width. So basically what we're doing is we're assessing the sidewalks, whatever's under that width, those are the ones that are being replaced in order to meet that standard.
So it is replacing existing sidewalks?
Correct, existing sidewalks that are under the 1.5 meter standard.
Okay.
Yes, we have legislative requirements that mandate us to do that. So we're in the process of meeting. I'm sure there's deadlines, and I'm sure that we will go past that deadline like many municipalities. Of the municipalities in Ontario, there'll be many that will not be finished. Yes, Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Mayor, thank you. I'm just wondering, the stormwater rates study. Thanks, Mike. Somebody's got to. So the stormwater rates study, that would be also included in the asset management plan, because when he was here at the last meeting, he said he would be looking at the water rates. No chance he'd be looking at the stormwater rates in that asset management plan. So that's necessary for this year then.
Okay. Martin, thank you. Thank you, Martin, for being our sound technician. You know, and Martin can shut you off. It's easy.
I know how it's done. On somebody else's.
Okay, Mac, just flag the chair when you're done your presentation. Just advise me, okay? But go ahead.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last slide here. So the next meeting, again, as I said, is Thursday, March 20 at 9:30. The materials that we're looking to bring to that, any recap from this budget meeting. So you've asked for a few things, other funding with Strathroy. You talked about Simpson Park. Let's get an option to bring all of those items back in. So we'll work through those. We'll also look at any refinements that we can do, kick the tires on something else, maybe, 2,000 doesn't need to be there, that sort of thing. We'll look for those. We'll also bring back slides on where our reserves are at. We'll look at the annual repayment level. So that's one thing that once we have better understanding of where everything is at, we'll be able to show that. And then we'll also bring a slide about 26 and beyond. So what are these debentures that we're talking about now? How will that impact? We'll also look at what are our other costs, like OBP. That's definitely going to go up that 10% that we got to reduce. So other factors like that, we'll look at that. Okay. And if there's any other suggestions, I'm happy to take those on and try and get those in 2 weeks' time.
Thank you very much, Mac. Martin, I can see your hand there. We'll certainly allow you to speak just in a second. Council, those options that have been set before us, some, the heavy tax increases that are have 2 digits, I'm sure is not in consideration, but scenarios like 3 and 4 may appeal to your appetite in terms of the tax rate would be competitive. Yet I think our objective should be to maintain our services and certainly an increment up on our service level too is always good to envision the municipality moving forward and moving up. That's been well presented by administration. I just wanted to put that in, and if council has any wish to focus on one of those options, please advise the chair. Yes, Councillor Big, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. This is for Kevin and also everybody. I'm a little concerned about service levels in Southwest Middlesex. I don't see why some areas have private service and some have public service. So you have someone fall on the sidewalk in Morrisville, go to risk. So if we have private service in certain areas, then because we're Southwest Middlesex now, and I think that's probably a more economical way to go, and it should be that way throughout the municipality. So, in other words, we should all have the same service.
Well, that's an opinion, not a question. So we'll take that. Yes, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. I just wondered if I could ask Councillor Bing for just a bit of follow-up. Are you referring to the sidewalks already?
Well, this is all services, grass cutting, sidewalks, we should have the same service throughout the municipality. We're Southwest Middlesex.
I think, the efficiencies, sometimes there's efficiencies in our team doing it, and other times there's efficiencies when the contractor out, particularly in moving equipment from point A to point B as part of the consideration. And certainly use and the potential of just-in-time service too is important. We have requirements to meet in soccer and things of that nature, and that's why we, as a municipality, do that ourselves as opposed to contracting it. There will be geographical features and use factors that will determine that. Councillor Haggett.
Thank you, through the mayor. Contracting help isn't always the answer either. And when we contract out, we can offset our cost, what our men are doing compared to what you're paying a contractor. And odds are, doing it ourselves is probably less. Because in the end, when you contract stuff out, can you do away or try to cut what we have? A contract just goes like this. Because you don't have an option afterwards, you have to. And I think it's a good comparison for what our working costs are compared to what we have to pay out. And you're getting a level of service off the hop instead of waiting. Because the next thing might be, well, if we do it with our own guys, well, they didn't get the words till 4 o'clock in the afternoon. That would be the next thing.
The only comment that Sharon make on that is that very often, use an example in the storm, we don't have a overweighted employee ratio in our public works, and their main feature, or their main responsibility is to get those roads open for school buses, for EMS, things of that nature. That being said, the snow downtown may sit there for a while because we do not have the staff to put a team in there to clean it up. The road network has to be open, that we can provide services to vehicles such as buses and EMS ambulances. We're not, I don't like to use the terminology, the department's not fat. It's runs pretty lean. And if municipality or council chose to increase staff, that's an option that may be available. Maura can speak to that. Our guys doing it versus contracting. Contracting is necessary in some individual cases.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. Contracting is necessary in certain areas, especially with the minimum maintenance standard. Like Councilor Haggard said, it's with the sidewalks, for example, we have one machine, one operator that does it, and we have multiple areas of sidewalks. If we had to do it all in-house with that machine, it'd be very difficult to meet that standard. And, you know, there'd be one municipality that would get it later than the other, so the contract service is necessary for that unless we increase staff and get another machine. With the snow in downtown, yes, you're correct, our primary focus is the roads and the sidewalks in order to meet those standards. At which point, you know, when we have to look for good weather, because it takes 4 of our guys to do it, and it's through the night, we lose those 4 operators for the next day. So we have to plan it so that we have good weather for the next couple of days, because we know we don't have those operators. But, you know, like, we do have good staff, we do have good management. We ended up doing downtown twice this year with the snow that we had. So, you know, I have to congratulate the guys on getting that done and managing that, and for doing it twice this year during the winter that we had.
I agree, and kudos to that. It's important for the livelihood of those people on the street, and it was well received by the business community.
Okay.
Yep. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Last question. I know that we pre-approved the pool house and splash pad repairs work, and I just wonder if we can get a brief update on where we are.
Yeah, an RFQ has been put out there and we're just waiting on results to come in, and I will have a report for you for the March 19th meeting.
Whatever, yeah, March 20th.
Thank you.
I believe there was an error in that March 20th, but thank you.
Thank
Oh, is that okay?
March
Good.
20th
All right.
is the
That sounds good. Got it.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Well, council, I want to thank everyone for their questions and their concerns, and we certainly will have some homework done on the request by Councilor Haggard. Amanda? Go ahead.
Just need a motion to receive the presentation materials for information.
Okay. We want, I'd like to also say, the chair will ask for mover and seconder to receive the report as information. But that being said, I want to thank administration for the transparency in this year's budget. Okay, there has been a lot of detail that is totally transparent on the wish lists and the cost increases of running this municipality and the options put forth. And I'm sure over the course of several meetings, we will come up with a blueprint for both administration and council to follow. Is there a mover and a seconder to receive match report for information? Councilor Haggett has moved it. Is there a seconder? Councilor Myers. Last call for discussion. All in favor? All opposed? Carried. Mac, thanks very much. That was an excellent job. Appreciate it. We are looking at the bylaws at the Council of Municipality of Southwest Middlesex, give first, second, and third reading for the bylaw of to confirm the special meeting of council on March 5th. Is there a mover and a seconder? Chair will move it. Yep, seconded by Councilor Haggett. All in favor? Carried. Future meetings are on your agenda there. And we have the hour of 11:22. I don't want to give list any councilors' concerns or inquiries, but I think we've got all the questions. There were numerous, and I want to thank staff for providing those answers. We'll adjourn the meeting at 11:22. Is there a mover and a seconder?